Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hello, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Check us on the web, ntnm.org. We got a lot to talk about. I thought I was going to have an extra 5-6 minutes for this guest, but I forgot I invited somebody that I had to make room for. Also, we're talking about the Judicial Blogger, somebody who is as popular as they come in the judicial community and one of the few places you can really get news. His blog is called For What It's Worth, the Old Buffalo Springfield song. We're talking about Jack Leyhane. Jack, how are you?
Avi, how are you?
Good, thank you, and good to see you.
Thank you.
Let's do some judicial analysis. What race would you like to start with?
All right, well, we had a bunch of things to talk about. I think in the 27 contested races that there were countywide, I think we were able to establish slating for 24 of them. There was one open race, I think you remember, in the 8th sub-circuit where the committeeman just decided not to slate anybody for the, I think it was the coal vacancy. Yeah. But and in the 7th sub-circuit, I'm really not sure who was slated there. But out of the rest of those races, 24 contested races where there's a real contest, 20 of the slated candidates won. So I mean, the slated candidates, of course, Justice Tice won her race handily in the Supreme Court.
Surprisingly handily,
well,
in my book.
I think commercials work. There's something to be said for pays to advertise. I think that the money that was raised was apparently very well spent, and that's not always the case. A lot of campaigns raise money. I think there was an article in the Law Bulletin the last week that addressed the subject of spending. John Ehrlich in his 8th sub-circuit race didn't raise a lot of money. Won very handily, but other candidates in that race raised a ton of money and didn't do so well. So there is something to be said for not just raising money, but spending it well. And the Bears, of course, have never learned that distinction. But that's something entirely different.
Well, Michael Bush, I hope, will work out. But you know what? Let's get to the judges. I shouldn't interrupt you at all with that.
All right. Well, let's talk about slating. There were 3 countywide races where the judges that were slated by the Cook County Democratic Party did not prevail, okay? In one, the Conlin vacancy, it was Karen O'Malley who won the race. It was Judge Stanley Hill who was slated. He was appointed by the Supreme Court and slated for that vacancy. O'Malley had the top ballot position, Irish female, Irish surname. That certainly didn't hurt.
And not that it counted for very much, but she did have my endorsement in Jewish Chicago, and I like her myself.
And I was going to mention that. That was the next thing I was going to say, because I did have your endorsements on the blog this year. I wanted to make sure that was out there.
You can find almost all my judicial videos, and if not all of them. Sorry I didn't check as carefully as I should have.
I don't think I missed any. I think I
really don't think you did either, and I do thank you.
Well, I think they're a great resource for people to look at. Candidates can't go door to door and see everybody in Cook County, but they can be seen and they can be known because of programs like yours, and I think that's a great service.
I do want people to know, because some people say, well, how come you didn't invite me? Most people invited themselves. I had one guy tell me, how did you not know I was Jewish? Well, how am I supposed to know? People, if you're running for judicial office, feel free to contact me. If you contact me on time, at least 6 weeks before the election, please, I'll be happy to put you on the air.
One thing that I noticed in looking at some of the numbers, I broke out the city numbers today before I came over, Avi, and I saw that the 19th ward probably had the biggest turnout of any of the city wards. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at it.
And by the way, they also had the largest Republican turnout. They had one of the largest. They had something like over 4,000 Republican people voted.
Countywide, we were at about 24%, and that was city and suburbs alike. But the 19th ward had a real big turnout. They had to make up for a lot of difference, apparently. There must... the 14th.
That's also a very even though Tom Dart wasn't running, it's basically Dart's ward, and it's a very powerful Irish southwest side ward.
Well, let's put it this way: in the 14th ward, Alderman Burke's ward, in the Supreme Court race, let's just go to the top of the judicial ballot, where you'd have the most people voting of the judicial races. We had 2,885 people voting in the 14th ward. In the 19th ward, we had 10,792.
Wow.
That's a big difference. In the 13th,
And that's just Democrats?
yeah, this is just a
Because there were
Democratic primary.
4,200 Republican votes also in the 19th ward.
Right, and in the 13th ward,
Yeah.
Big turnout there, 8,035. I think the different ward organizations figured out, can we deliver numbers for our people, the people that we want to support? I guess the 14th ward didn't turn out a lot of people, but the people they turned out went the way they expected them to go.
They sure did.
Maybe that's the way, maybe that's the thinking out there. I don't know. But it was interesting that there was that big of a drop-off.
Wow.
In the 19th ward, though, and let's just take a look at that, and I'm not picking on the south side, that's where I'm from. But,
Same here.
O'Malley had 53.73% of the vote in the Conlon vacancy race. Judge Hill had 39.60%. So they did not deliver for the slated candidate in that race. In the Simmons Jr. race, we had Michael Forty was the slated candidate,
Right.
Deputy Corporation Counsel. We had Jessica O'Brien, who works for the Department of Revenue, State Attorney General's office background. In the 19th ward, she got 41.82% of the vote. And Mr. Forty got 35.78%. So again, not real well delivered for the slated candidate there, as opposed to, say, Irish female name, although she's Filipino.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's Filipino.
Keep telling you guys, you got to watch out for that. This guy named Labin who was black. I thought sure he was Jewish.
This is America. That's the best thing. There was a kid that my son grew up with, and he got a samurai sword from his grandfather, and we never had the heart to ask him which grandfather he got it from, because this kid looked Japanese and had the Irish name first and last. It was just never knew. Anyway, in the Simmons Jr. race, O'Brien. In the 14th ward, there weren't a lot of votes, but they did narrowly carry it for the slated candidate for 40. Then we get to the ward vacancy. Now, this is kind of an interesting one. This is the other one that the party did not carry their candidate. The 19th ward turned out only 13.07% for the slated candidate, Al Swanson, who you had on the show a couple of times.
Good guy.
I've known Al for a number of years. Peter Vilkellis, who you also had on the show, got 28.45% of the vote. He also got the vote in the 14th ward. He got 37.74% of the vote there. Swanson, who's the slated candidate, got 9.18% of the vote.
Wow.
In the 13th ward,
Yeah.
the 13th ward, I think, generally tends to do, they have a pretty strong organization there. That's what I've read in the paper
they
somewhere. 7.87% of the vote went to the slated candidate.
Wow.
48.8% went to Vilkellis.
I would have really liked to have seen the palm cards there. Well, first of all, isn't that near Marquette Park and all that?
Well,
Because Vilkellis is a Lithuanian name,
Yes.
and there's a strong Lithuanian community in Marquette Park.
Yes, but I don't know that there's a lot of Lithuanians left in Marquette Park either.
That very well could be. It's been a long time since.
I think you're thinking back when we were both little.
That's yes, definitely true.
Now, the interesting thing about, you said palm cards. Here's the palm card from the 41st ward.
Oh, cool.
Because that's where I live, that's where I vote, and I wanted to see, what they're
That's
passing
where
out.
the most Republican votes were in the city, 4,600.
Well, and there was a decent turnout in the Democratic primary as well, but they departed from the party in two places.
Yeah.
In the case of the O'Brien vacancy, it was Ramirez against Cleary.
Right, Cynthia Ramirez.
Right.
Gerald Cleary.
Right. Cynthia Ramirez was the slated candidate. They went with Gerald Cleary. It's really interesting when you take a look at the numbers, how this breaks out. And I just think it's fascinating, because palm cards actually mean something. That was his highest percentage in the city of Chicago.
Wow.
He got 61% of the vote in that in the 41st ward. They also departed from the party in the appellate court race. They did not go with Matt DeLort. They went with James McGing. Now, McGing actually lives up that way, and that's that's his home territory. So it's not surprising that that there'd be a little departure from form.
Both highly qualified. We're really running out of time here, so quick.
Okay. Anyway, again, there in that situation, he also was got the 15% of the vote. So palm cards work. So we know advertising works. We know palm cards work. We know that turnout matters, and if you have a low turnout, your slated candidates are going to do best of all.
We're going to invite you back to the next shoot because I want to talk a lot longer on this. Jack, thank you so much.
Thank you, Avi.